Hi everyone, welcome back into the studio. Well, I had lots of requests for all different kinds of flowers, and we're trying to fulfill those. But one I thought it was fun because we thought getting up today, oh, it's fall. It's just coming into fall. Let's do some fall type flowers. And one that we have out here in Nebraska is the Prairie sunflower. Now it is smaller than your regular sunflower. I mean, they only get to be about 4 inches or so across, and they are everywhere in every field around. I have them around the studio and stuff here in the gallery. They just grow everywhere. I took these couple of pictures of them, and they're so fun. This is a younger one. This is what happens when it gets a little older, but they grow like weeds everywhere alongside the roads and stuff, and they're so pretty. And it's been 5 years since I painted. I looked up this painting. I did this one of the prairie sunflowers and some blossoms and stuff. And I did it up on YouTube here about five. I did this in 2019. So, and it was done at the very beginning of 2019. So it's been over 5 years, almost 6 years since I've done some prairie sunflowers. And let's do them, okay? So what I have here is a board. It's just a little over 11 inches. It's just a board that I had 11 by about 16. A little longer. Normally you see me paint 11 by 14, and you can shorten this down to 11 by 14 if you want. But especially if you're going to if you don't have the ability to make frames and you got to go buy one, 11 by 14 is a good size. So you can just size your flowers for this. And then I gave it a coat of the canvas prep medium. This is what I prep all of my boards and stuff with, is the canvas prep medium. So and that just works great. So I gave it a coat, sanded it lightly, 180 grit sandpaper, and I'm all ready to go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I did like this kind of a warm to a cool background that I had on the other one. But I want to add this time, and you can just see them over here on the edge, I added some little purple blossoms. This time I'm going to add some cosmos. Cosmos are about, not quite, almost half the size of a prairie sunflower, I think, and that deep, rich blue would be beautiful against the yellow. So let's see if that works, okay? So I'm going to start out, though, with that kind of a cooler but a neutral gray. And I'm going to make that from some of the colors I'm going to use on my sunflowers, which is my Phthalo Blue and my Burnt Sienna. And I want a kind of a blue-gray. So it'll take a little more Burnt Sienna does Phthalo Blue, because Burnt Sienna isn't quite as powerful as the Phthalo Blue, okay? And then so I don't dirty up too much of my white, I'll pull some of that out, and see if we can get a real, and this is going to be a bit too blue. It's kind of a pretty color though, but it's going to be a bit too blue for me. I might take some of that off to the side there though, and add a touch of violet to it, and see if we can get a beautiful blue violet for the upper corner of our design. Maybe just a touch more blue into that. And so I'll look at the two colors here to see if I like the two colors, if I get them together. So, and I'm looking for, I want it to be kind of a gray, because the cosmos have to play off this, so I don't want to get it too blue. And that looks pretty nice. Let's just warm this one up a bit more here. A little yellow and a little more burnt sienna. That's kind of pretty. Lighten it just a bit. We'll see. Yeah, this will probably be pretty good here. That's a pretty color. That's a pretty color combination, a different kind of color combination. And I might model some yellows through that to warm it up. You know me, I painted that one 6 years ago. I'm a different artist today, and I like to do things a little different. Somebody asked me to paint it. Yeah, certainly I can paint it, but I like to experiment and do different things. I'm going to take my old, this is a very old Fusion 2-inch. This brush is probably 10 years old. I use it whenever I want to get casual backgrounds. And so I'm going to take some extender. This is my extender medium. Oh, one of the other medium that I want to get out here, because I want to use this, because when I painted that other one, I didn't have it, and that's the open medium. We didn't have it 6 years ago. Now we do, so I want to try that with it as well today. So let's grab some of this and some extender let's come down here. Yeah, I'm going to want to warm this just a bit more. And once you start getting it over your surface a little bit, you can see more of what it is, the actual color, and what you might want to do with it. I'm going to leave some of the white and stuff coming through here. I want to do that, but let's just do that now. Let's warm that a bit. Bit of yellow, bit of white. I'm probably going to have to add some more white to my palette here. Let's warm that. Yeah, that's pretty. See, I don't know if the camera can pick up, probably can't pick up all the subtleties here of that, but I do like some of that through, especially if I'm going to paint these yellow sunflowers. I want some of that yellow, which that nice, beautiful yellow oxide to come through this time. The last time I didn't do stuff like this. Now I do. I love this. That's beautiful. That looks good, having some of that yellow. Let's go up here. Let's actually hit this violet a little bit more. Let's put some of this violet up here, a little darker here. Get a little more extender here. Whip this up. Work this through and bring those together right in here into the center. All those colors work real well, and they'll model and work together well because they all came from the same foundation. I started to mix the same, so they'll mix together here really nice. Let's put we have these real bright cosmos here, so let's get, and I know this might hurt your eyes a little bit, but let's put a little brighter blue violet up in here. And just like we'll pull some of this through and let some of this model up. That will be pretty into our backgrounds. And so, when I think of backgrounds and I'm doing something like this, I like to think of the colors of my composition, which we're going to have the yellows and the blues and stuff, and moving through a neutral, and which is what I have. The original gray, which I started over here, is more of a neutral. So I'm working my colors through that neutral here. So let's just work some of this right out here. We'll try it a little heavier and work some of these colors in here. And I like the real big brush because I can get this soft working of color here. Let's just pull some of this down here. And look at that. That's pretty. It gives a nice variation of those colors. And it's like these are almost like little cosmos way back into the distance and stuff that you would have. And that works. And I think that'll be great. And then we'll get those, we'll put maybe one of our main sunflower or prairie sunflowers right up here by the top. Okay, so I'm going to do majority of the painting here with a 10 flat. That's one of my favorite brushes to paint with. I'm going to take I'm going to do a drawing color first. I'm going to take some burnt sienna and some yellow oxide here. And we're going to come in here and kind of imagine, maybe I'm going to paint this prairie sunflower here. I'm going to set the size, which is going to be I'm going to do them about full size, which is going to be about 4 inches or so here, and I'll get more specific with the petals, but right now I want to set the gaze, which angle. So I want this one at a slight angle here, and I'm painting wet into wet, so it's going to soften out real quick, but it should start to dry up pretty fast. So, but I'm gonna paint back and forth here for a little bit, and so we're gonna set the gaze there. We'll set another gaze. Maybe this one comes out here at this particular angle, and we'll sit underneath that one right there. That'll work. And let's set another lower one here. So I'll put a lot of weight. Usually I put the weight, you see me with the roses and stuff, I put a lot of weight up towards the top. Well, I'm going to leave some of those cosmos and stuff trailing on up here. So I'll do that, but I want to keep a lot of the weight down low. Let's put maybe a back. We'll look up here for like a little turned one or sideways one here, right up like that, just to loosen up the composition. Now, let's go. So I'm going to paint basically maybe 3, a younger one there. And now let's go into some blue and a little bit of Quinacridone Violet, some Phthalo Blue, Quinacridone Violet. I'm going to keep this pretty dark because it can lighten it up pretty easy. But now we'll look for Cosmos as a blossomed flower. But right now I'm just going to put those in like that. And I want to turn and rotate some of these now. So I don't want to, my big flat flowers here are going to be the sunflowers here. So these I want to turn, and I want to paint impressions of them more than anything else. I don't want something too super, perfect. I want this to be mostly about the prairie sunflowers. So it's going to be about those 3 sitting right up there. And then we could have another, like a smaller one sitting up here. Maybe a couple of them trailing off that way like that to loosen up the composition. And maybe right down through here, a couple of them, or just marks of them coming down through here, trailing off on that side. So you'll get a feeling of the lightness of it and the darkness of it. Let's restate some darks in there. This will give time for this to set up a bit here. But let's come back in and restate some darks, right? More so into the center. That's where we're going to paint the majority of the contrast on the Cosmos. And when you look at the Cosmos flowers, they really are dark right into the center. So let the first initial base stay more to the outside. Keep the darks to the inside for right now. And we're painting for contrast right now. We're painting just darks for contrast. We'll soften some of this out, fix some of these up. I'm just looking at color more than anything right now and how it's going to move through my composition. I might want to take some of this dark and see, we're going to do around these prairie sunflowers, I'm going to do some negative painting as well, which means I can work some of these colors. We're going to have some leaves and stuff, but some of these colors I can work around these sunflowers as well. Some greens, and we don't want to take up all of our background, but we can work some of those colors as well around there. Okay, so yeah, that works pretty good. Now, sometimes I like to take just a bit of that color out into the background, and that creates, and even just like this, let's let that look like it's just fading out, other flowers going off, because I got a power going this way, and then we'll make just a subtle little power this way, which will be pretty neat. I think it'll work. So let's just get a little bit here, just very casual, some of that movement. That's all we need back there for right now. All right. Now, so we got that dark in there. I'm just going to pinch wipe my brush here with my paper towel, take most of that blue out, and let's come in and let's work some of the center colors on the prairie sunflowers. Now, one color, this yellow oxide is very opaque. This is a semi-transparent, which I love, Diarylide Yellow, and I use it because it's a semi-transparent. And so I'm going to mix this up into the burnt sienna, and it's going to give me a darker color, but it's going to make it more of a semi-transparent color. So you can see it's a little bit more orangey, a little bit more powerful of a color, and it's a semi-transparent, which gives me a lot of interest to the marks that I make on the surface. So if I use a super opaque color, they usually take everything out. I'm looking now to add other color interest into these sunflowers. So I'm going to be looking for this yellowish color, and we're going to go more burnt sienna in a minute as well. So, and then all of this we can paint out and soften out. So again, I'm not making the petals yet. What I'm doing more than anything else is I'm setting up the colors. Does that make sense? The colors that I will paint the petals into. And that's the way I like to do it. Let's come back in with some more burnt sienna here. A little bit of that Diarylide. But let's come into the center here and start to add some burnt sienna. So you see I'm evolving or working down into the flower here. Working down the value scale, getting darker here. So, and the centers on the prairie sunflower, they're about a third of the flower when the flower is young, as you can see here. And then the center gets older as the flower gets older. But I'm going to paint some younger flowers here, so I don't, and see, if I get a little mark like that, I'll leave it. I'm looking for color and interest, so I'll leave that. And what that is I pushed a little bit too hard and picked up. I could take that out, but I don't want to. I want to leave that. So I'm using the brush very soft here because the color on the surface, because I added extender, is very loose and very wet. So I have to use soft marks here until this starts to tack up. In about another 5-10 minutes here, it'll start to tack up some more. Now, let's take burnt sienna, a little bit of blue. This will darken it down again. Sometimes I add a bit of violet to this. I just love the coolness that comes from that. And let's add another mark of darker color. This time it'll start to appear a little cooler as well. Okay, these are all colors. We're going to revisit all of these colors again. But this just starts to add. And by using the burnt sienna and a little bit of blue, you're going to start pulling in some of that tone of those cosmos in here. And that's going to create a better harmony even with the cosmos right up here. Let's just add a mark or two of that right up in here. Get some of that color going in there, which is great. Okay. The cosmos centers are more of a grade white, but we could use these two, maybe just a bit of white blue and this, and we could add some of that. We don't need to be perfect little centers. I want the cosmos here to be suggestive, really, really suggestive, not perfect little painting of the cosmos. I want suggestive here. So a little gray, just little touches of that happening. And you see, just move that around. Okay, so now if I test my surface, this is starting to get a little bit sticky, which is what I like. That's when I know my painting is getting ready. Now, if for some, you know, there's a lot of people always say, well, my acrylics can't do that. Yeah, not all acrylics can do this, guys. Not all acrylics can. The heritage that we use, I formulated this paint 16 years ago, and I formulated it to do these specific types of techniques. Not all acrylics are formulated this way. So the extender that I use is actually in every single tube of acrylic that we have. So, and it's part of the architecture of the binder, the whole setup, the chemistry of the paint, okay? And so I can use that to control different things in the painting as I go to paint. So, but not all paints are that way. And so, you know, you use what you have. You might have to add, you know, use or different types of techniques. Now I can just lift my brush here as this starts to tack up, and I can soften some of those marks. I don't want to eliminate them completely. I like the marks, but I can soften some of those. And now we can start painting a little bit more. And so I've got some good setup there. I want to have on these maybe a bit more of the yellow, maybe even a little bit of the Hansa Yellow. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to push in right into the center area here, a little bit more of a light side and a shadow side. So Hansa Yellow and the Diarylide Yellow, I'm just going to push this in. a little bit more right in there to get some more yellow into that. So over here, maybe we'll push this one up underneath. We'll push this one up on top. I think that would be pretty. And we'll let this one sit down in shadow. So the light, warm side will actually be over here. Quite a bit different than what I did before on the other one. But you can go back into the channel and see some of the other prairie sunflowers and stuff. They're fun to paint. And, you know, we'll all be a little bit different how we paint them. You know, because we're all different artists, but they're really a lot of fun to paint. So I'll bring some of these in, right in there. Let's bring the light side right up here. Maybe right in there like that, and we'll let the rest of it, you know, just kind of go dark. Maybe a little burnt sienna. And now when I paint shadows, this is the thing. Same thing that I did with the landscape. Same thing I did with the titmouse here. In the last couple of weeks of lessons, I've been concentrating on consistency of the paint with you guys. So I'm going to thin out. When I go to shadows, I go thin. So if I want these shadows over here, I'm going to thin them out a bit, right? So shadows over here, I picked up a little bit of that underlying gray. We could pick up a bit of the blue. We thin it with extender. I want these shadows to be thinner, so the shadow does not have as much power as the light, if that makes sense. Okay, let's put a bit of the Diarylide in there just to get some streaky interest in that color there. Maybe a little bit more Diarylide here, just so you can see some of the streaky interest there. Okay, now, so let's set the first one right up here up in front of it. And I'm going to take my Hansa, a little bit of Diarylide, some white, and now open medium. Open medium is thicker. This will keep it thicker. So the mark I make here is going to stick up on top and stick above that shadow that I just put on. And it's going to stick over it and above it, and it's going to stay. Okay, there we go. Just like that, see? Now, let's take away some of that white, just a bit of that white. Open medium into the color so it's thicker. And let's just pull some of the petals here that we want to have on this guy. Maybe pull out here. We're going to keep it nice and loose and stuff. And I'll paint more, but this just gives me the idea. And I can paint back and forth. Let me show you. So if I don't like this one, which I don't care for it that much, it's a little big, it's a little stiff, I pull back like this, and I'll even actually soften it out, put the blue back in there, and then let's just come back in and set it up again, maybe a little more casual there. And I love that blue and stuff when it travels in there. So sometimes I do this with these, and if I feel the petals a little too stiff, I run my finger back and forth. Because I put it on with the open medium, it'll stay a little bit more, and the shadow that was originally put on with the extender, because the extender's thinner, they won't have as much power. So I like to paint the flowers like that. That is my fun way to paint them. Now, not quite as much white yet. I want to control where I put the white. So the two yellows and some open medium. Let's come out here and maybe pull some of these out here. And then let it do just a little bit here underneath. Okay? So, and I can push into those and soften those petals. Put a little blue into there, soften those petal exchanges, which is what I like to do. So I'm building these slowly. Let's put some right out here. Okay. Right out here. Boom. Let the color run off. And just impressions down there on the other side. Okay. Let's go up here to the top. Maybe we're going to, up here at the top, we'll keep the heavier petal up here at the top. And a little bit, and just a little bit of movement here. And I'll blur that out a bit here. Let's come a little heavier Hansa Yellow right here, and we'll pull a few in. That'll help turn that one. Now that center on that one's a little small, so I'll take it out a bit. Work that out into the flower. Take a little blue, a little burnt sienna, a little darker. There we go. Work some of those colors out into the flower. And I'll do the same thing like over here. So instead of leaving that harsh, you can see they have a softer color here. Well, when I painted these others that are here on some of them, I really softened that out quite a bit, quite a bit further out. And I like that. So what I do is after I start the petals, I just start taking some of that color out into the petals. This also loosens up the petals. Now, if I want it to have some power, which I do right now, I'm going to use some open medium with it so it sticks up on top and I can compete against that light color that I put on earlier. There, like that. Soften that out, see? And let's go a little bit of yellow, a little bit of our yellows, both yellows, a little bit of open medium here. And let's just soften and push some of those colors out here, a little further out. And let some of that just gives beautiful color and power. Sometimes I'll, express the pure color, like right out through here. See, and that just, look at the beautiful pure color of that Diarylide that comes through right here. Completely different, see, works. Adds a power. And see, I don't worry about when I'm painting this, and one of the most important things is when you're painting that, don't paint each petal the same every time. So I'm not following. See, I just went plump right in through this area. My petal, I see the petal, and I'll come back in and push some of that petal. But I don't want to push this color always the same petals. You'll start to make them look like teeth, and they get stiff. Does that make sense? So you want to constantly keep moving it a little different. Let's push in a little burnt sienna out a little further. That's pretty. That's a pretty color right out in there. I like that. Let's get some of that burnt sienna. And see, I'm building color, building interest here. So right in here, the burnt sienna is a little heavy. I'm not adding any medium or so. I'm just going to add some more open medium, some more Diarylide. So, and I like that modeling in towards the center. So here's some heavy burnt sienna. Boom, see? Right in there like that, right? Now give it some power of it right, don't tap right into that with that Diarylide. The Diarylide is a semi-transparent, and it loses against the burnt sienna, but before it loses, it softens. Does that make sense? It'll soften it a bit, okay? So let's come right down here. Now what I'm going to do is take my open medium, my yellows, and some white, maybe some white by the edge of it. So I have white by the edge. Do you see that? White by the edge. And I can use this, we'll turn it around here, to start to draw some of the light tips of that petal of that particular one there. So maybe right in here, I'll start this one in here. And then we'll let it just fade away here. Go away, fade away. Change the type of the coloring and the stroke here. Right there like that. And then sometimes I'll take, if I feel like it's got too much light back in, I'll just take and I'll paint from the center back out, taking out some of that light. So what I do is I go back and forth. So here's a little bit of the Hansa, a little open medium, a little white, and I'll pull out this time right in here, right here to build that particular petal there of this one. Pull out, let it fade away like that, okay? And maybe I'll pull it in towards the center a little bit more. Get some of that movement there. Here. Boom, right like that. I love some of that blue showing through there. Here, just a touch of white. Here, just a touch. Learn to paint small and like little marks. There, like that. Now, I'll take some of my Diarylide and some burnt sienna and pull out to take some of that out. Some of that I don't want to have there. Maybe I want to have a little bit more. Maybe I just take another yellow, like a yellow oxide, and come in and add a bit of that into the medium areas there. If I want that petal to go a little lighter, which I kind of do, maybe I grab some light here, a little bit of white, put some heavy paint there, and just work that here. A little bit heavier right there like that. So I'm building some of these looks, and I really like the ruffly edges that you can get on these. But sometimes I'll paint more of a specific edge like this, you know, into those little sunflowers there. I like to just do like that. That's that corner edging technique, you know, the petal edging technique that you see me use in the roses and stuff. Well, you can use it on these guys as well to help bring up some of those edges. Like maybe I want to use that right in here. I don't want to put edges right there on the, as it's going up underneath, but right here, maybe a few pulling in here. Here like this work. Now this is starting to tack up, which is great, which will give me the beautiful interest and stuff that I want to have there. But I'll look for shadow colors pulling out as well right in here, so you don't have light going all the way out to the tip. I'll look for some shadows or restroke some shadows, maybe a touch of violet into some of that, so it gets a bit different right in there. Model that around here, there like that. See, I love that. And that Diarylide, just Diarylide back in here, just makes such pretty flowers because it just glows, see? So you can use that just to make your flowers just glow. But you can use that edging technique like this to really pop up an edge of a petal if you want to. There, like that. Okay. So maybe out here we get a little bit of an edge. So sometimes maybe that edge is just right out by the tip and then it fades away, see? So it doesn't always, every single time, go, you know, exactly the same. That's the thing that you're looking for, is each petal becomes a little bit different from each other. And you can do that by stroking them slightly different every single time. Let's lighten just a touch more. Maybe some of these right out here. And a little heavy, so I'll pull out here. There we go. Just like that. That's kind of pretty. Those couple together there. We can go a little bit lighter. It all depends on how light that you want to have your composition. So I could go a little lighter on a few of them. Little touches here. A little lighter. Shape up the petals. They do get very pointed. Look for different colors. A little yellow, little Hansa, a little Hansa, a little bit of the Diarylide, tiny bit of white. Look for some of those nice little petal edges there. And they're all a little different. It just, look for differences. Try to make the petals a little different. And again, you can restate some of those darks and stuff going out here. I want to lighten some of it. See, I'm going to set this one right up on top of that one and let this one just stay soft down here. Fades away. Little open medium, just a bit here. Let's lighten a few little side petals here on this one, right up towards the front, and then we'll let this one just fade away, back up there. There we go. Usually I will, if I'm building a petal, I will go to open medium because that keeps it thick and easy to build. Does that make sense? And if I'm doing those shadows, so I want to restate some shadows, a little violets, a little, maybe a touch of blue, I will go to my extender, thinner. I don't want the shadows to have a tremendous amount of power in the painting. The shadows stay down because shadows can overtake highlights real quick here. So we'll soften some of this out. Use the corner of the brush, soften some of that out a little further. I lost some of that beautiful Diarylide I had in there, so I'm just going to model that up a bit right in there. Take some of it out into the petal a bit. That's where it gets pretty. You push in and out. And you'll see me on several paintings with blossoms and stuff. I push in and out all the time. But when you're painting like this, I mean, you know, you're going to end up repeating areas several times. That's what makes them pretty. You repeat them several times. There we go. That's pretty. Now let's get burnt sienna right in there and some blue, darker. Okay, this is going to carry us some more contrast now and carry in some of that beautiful contrast that is going to come from the cosmos. Here, we'll add that into the centers here. Right in here. Boom. And I can use my finger to push in and out, but you could also use your brush like this. Put a little yellow in and push in and out that way. And that helps soften that as well. Get that dark in there. That contrast. Right in there. Let's get some of that right in here. Some smaller little marks going out. And soften, pinch wipe your brush. Don't clean it, just pinch wipe it. Put in some of your Diarylide and pushing that around. Little extender, because you're in the shadows. Pushing that around will soften some of that. Get those other colors in there, right? That makes them pretty. Get some of that. But get some of that violet and that burnt sienna and that blue. Nice, deep, dark. Get some of that in right in there by the center. And get some of that contrast there. That deep richness of the contrast there. Right? Here we go. Here we go. A little bit of that up in here. Not too much, we want that one a little softer, but a little bit of that. And here's the one thing that you can do. Also, I'll take some of the color out of my brush, rinse it out, put some, just some extender into it, and pull through if you want, you know, and see how I soften that edge there? So sometimes I like these to be a little bit more transparent, and so I'll pull through and give that transparency of edge to the sunflower here, or to the prairie sunflower here. That transparency that you get, so it doesn't get quite as stiff feeling. So you know, you have all kinds of ways to control this. So here I'll blur through, take out just a bit of that. I'm going to build. So when I build back to open medium here, just a little bit right there. So I get that beautiful kind of translucency right there. So I can take some off and then come back and put a little bit of the edge back in where I want there on that flower and give a different look to it, see? Isn't that pretty? So let's pull some of this out a bit. Get the feeling of these petals coming out of that center. So you see, you'll leave just a little bit of that edge now that I have that shadow in there. I'll leave just a little bit of the edge, and that'll make the petals coming out of that center there, like that, right? And then we'll take some yellows and a little bit of white, model that together here, and we'll tap. It has some light here, light little touches. Don't breathe. Light little touches up here. Tapped around to loosen it up a bit. Let's tap some of that around here. We'll leave some light, dark contrast on this one. Let it fall away there. That's kind of pretty. And I love the Diarylide and some of the darks. And so you can even just start to pull those petals out first like this so they maintain their shadow. And then go back to a little open medium, a little light, just a little bit, that Diarylide light. And restroke those centers, or the petals going into those centers. So you get a little bit of movement coming out of the center of the petal, the feeling of the petal. That gives them more shape. Lots of ways to do these. But I love to paint them back and forth with that. Let's get a little Diarylide into that shadow. Look at how pretty color that is. And that'll be just really pretty. The Diarylide is that it's a semi-transparent. So wherever you add it, you'll get a lot of show through of other colors. And it's just such a pretty color to work with here. So let's pick up this edge here. A little bit more in here. There we go. Some light taps here. Right in there. And that center's a bit weak, so I'll just take a bit of both here. Maybe a tiny bit of white, a little bit of both. And just restate this side over here a bit more. Maybe a little mark of dark. There. So this one stays softer underneath a bit. Here we go. Real soft out here, just a few little marks to say you did it. Let's leave that one overall just really soft. Maybe a open medium here, a little bit of white, maybe a few pulls out from the center. Here. And again, that just gives a good feeling of the the petal going all the way to the center. So I don't do every single petal, but this just gives a little more structure here. There we go. Something like that, just a little more structure here. There we go. And a little bit of that light up there. just a few little marks. I'll tap it with my finger here, take some of that excess color off. I want to keep it kind of soft. Now I'm going to look back through, and you know, I like this real blurry one down there. Could I develop some of the petals a little bit more? I could, maybe an edge or two. This is where I'll go now with a slightly lighter up onto the edge, and I'll look to draw a few petals that really kind of make the sunflower jump here. Jump off a little bit more here. And let's pull this one down this way a bit more. Let it just kind of fade off there. And you can pull that shadow out through the petal to get it more of a part of the petal there. And that's very important, pulling that shadow out through the petal here. Just gives it a good look here. Let's put a little edge right in here. Maybe a little edge in there. And you can see how it just makes the sunflower here just come to life, these little edges. Let's, so watch this. So see, I've got a nice edge developing there. I'll take this and I want to pull it right down to where it's going to join right here. I want to put a little lighter edge right in there. Boom, widen it out just a bit. Maybe a little mark right in there. See, that just brings it to life, just jumps it to life, right? So I'm finally, you know, I'm coming in here and just applying a few little edges here, just bringing it to life. And then I'll come down, open medium, maybe not quite as much white, but I'm going to put a few onto this one as well. Here. Boom. A little more diarylide, a little more yellow. Isn't that fun? So you kind of see, you build and build all of these colors through here, and then I come back in, and it's those little edges that really give a lot of interest to the flower. Now one of the things I did on the other one was I took a little bit of green, burnt sienna, and some of my yellow here, because I'm going to be putting in some green, this is going shadow, so I'm going to add some extender here. But I'll pull some of that through just as another little color here. There, see, isn't that pretty little color in there, see? But more thinking of this more as an accent. And especially as your flowers get bigger, you pull more colors like this, and that just gives them more interest. So we could, and what would be really good is to take a little bit of blue. I did not do that on the other one. 6 years ago I didn't do it. But we might do it this time. I'm going to expand the blue burnt sienna and violet here. I'm going to expand this out a little bit more, just into a few areas here, out into the petals a bit more, especially on that big one. And I want to get a bit more of that Diarylide and burnt sienna. So you can see, yeah, see, isn't that pretty? See, I break up that color a bit. I put that color on for contrast, then bake it up a little bit. That's a little dark right there. I'm going to opaque it up with some yellow oxide, which will soften that out even more. There we go. And what am I looking for more than anything else? Variation of the marks here. Let's just lighten this up a bit. Here we go. Softens that. Gets a nice variation of those marks. A little bit of dark. Let's take some of that out. Yeah. That just gives a real pretty little flower. See how, and I know it's taken a while, almost as long as it does to paint a rose, but you look at the translucency through the petals. And I can make these even more translucent by just pulling back a little bit, pushing and pulling back. See, I can bring translucency into those petals, because this, from the extender, it's still a little bit sticky. But if I put a bit of extender on my finger and work it, I'll get it really translucent. Let me just put a little extender on my finger here. See, so you can see a little bit there on my finger. And I push, see how I get that? I'll move right through that translucency there. And I'll add that translucency of that petal right there like that. And that just really does a nice number on it. Let's put just go back to a light, so I go back a little bit of open medium, a little heavier. Let's put just idea of a lighter little petal edge there. Right like this, right this edge in. Here. Out like that. There we go. That's nice. That's beautiful and different. Yeah? And burnt sienna, some of my blue. Just tap some of this out a little further here. Right out there like that. Maybe a little bit of our yellows. Here. There we go. Just very, very different. And super fun flower if you look at it like you're going to paint it in, basically in layers, right? You're going to paint it in layers. Okay, so now let's go back up to some of these cosmos. I'm going to rinse that yellow out of my brush because I'm going to go over to the blues and I don't want to get green. So some blues, some violets here. Let's go into some whites. And now we're going to paint with some open medium because we're going to put some lighter colors. And I want this. I want the cosmos to travel through the blue violets. So I'm going to model in some violet over there, some blue over here, and right in between. And put some open medium in this so it stays thick and powerful, right? And we'll do some petal edges here. And we've got to keep them no bigger than half the size of the prairie sunflowers. That's what they are. But if you get them off size, you just say it's a different flower, because there are thousands of flowers. So if you just say it's a different flower, there's always a way. So let's bring some of this in. I think they're the prettiest when, see, that one's going a little bit like too much blue. And so I want to get just a little bit of the violet into it. Even though I don't see very much violet in those cosmos there, I do like that. So I want to get some of that color. And see, it plays really nice against these yellows. You get this violet, this beautiful deep violet here. Blue, violet. Some pretty colors there. Right up against that. And see, we don't have to have a perfect petal here. Let's just start to build like a little flower here. And we only have to paint, like half the flower here. Don't paint the whole thing. You don't need to. Just paint like half of it. There, like that. Let's come over here. Let's get a little violet into that. Here. Slide over, a little more open medium, a little light color. Slide up over here. Let's make that a little more violet. Get a little bit of difference in there. There we go. It's like that. Sometimes those little edges, that didn't work well. So I just back that out. Take a breath. That didn't work well. And so, Yeah, a little more open medium. Happier attitude. I didn't tap the edge of that white off enough, so it looked too, outlined. So I like it a little softer. So you got to tap it on your palette a little bit to get some of that softness. I love this dark that's right there. So let's put some of that dark in there. Right up in here. Boom. Get that dark right up against that flower. Get some of that color in there, see? Then we'll come back, reset that light right in there. Yeah. Multiple petals, sometimes the double petals. I like the Cosmos that have like the double petals, they're like 2 comma strokes coming down. So in other words, they look kind of like this, and you'd flip it over and paint it back down this way. And I like those kind. Those are the kind I have. And size, those are good. Let's just get a few light little touches here, like the edge of petals here. Some variation, light and dark. They don't have to be perfect. Maybe a little lighter right in this one. Here. Let's lighten that up, touch more violet. Get a nice little light violet in there too. Just some pretty colors here. Little touches. Move that color around. I like how that violet and that blue, especially that deeper blue, plays against this guy. So, and see, I can just drop that in, like right down here like this. I don't have to build a flower, but I can drop that in, or even right here like this, and separate out that petal for the Prairie sunflower, and just maybe blur that just a bit there. Yeah, and so you can still draw certain petals. Like, let me rinse this out. So you can use the blues here to negative. That's what we call the negative paint, right? Pick up my yellows, a little bit of white, got a touch of blue in there. That's a bit of a problem, but not too bad. So we'll just draw that little edge there. Makes just a pretty little different edge on that sunflower there, see? I'm looking for the edges and interest. Use that light tip, a little bit of that blue comes in, and it just gives that translucency to it, see? Let's put some of that, so it just doesn't happen on one side. Let's put it over here, just a bit of it. Here. Like that's happening right there. That's real pretty. Yeah. So, and let's drop some right down in here. Maybe there's some of that blue right down in there. Blur that into the flowers there. That's kind of pretty. And let's go back, restate some of that lighter gray. Grays can also be that beautiful gray can be from your reds and your blues. That makes beautiful grays as well. There into the centers of this white and gray here. Using just a corner. You know, I painted this whole thing basically with that 2-inch and to start out with, and then this number 10 using just different corners and stuff here. Painting the whole thing with 2 brushes. And I do like to do that. It's one of my favorite things to do, is to paint with 1 brush using different edges and stuff. I find I stay more casual that way, and I know that's kind of crazy, but you know, if I small down a brush, I'll make the same mark that I did with a bigger brush. But a bigger brush gives you a different look than a small brush. Small brushes can get stiff because you get so many marks going there. And so yeah, I like the look of the bigger brush, you know, putting those marks in here. And see, it's just, you just kind of dribble your brush around there. Is that a technique, dribbling it around? You just kind of dribble your brush around there. Yeah. Let's just take some of this light, a little bit of the blue and the light, and just add some marks like petals out here. And just let those fade away back there. That's pretty cool. Now, let's take some burnt sienna and green and burnt sienna, and we'll give the idea of some stems through here, right? A little bit of more burnt sienna. I like them green and burnt sienna, and everything in between. Little marks here, like that. Then I'll blur some off so they're not perfect, right? And now we'll come in with some different leaves. Now, the actual leaves on some of these are get pretty big, and cosmos and stuff are small. Cosmos are just little marks, so I'm going to put in a combination thereof of little marks and some suggestions of bigger leaves. So I'm going to do them both. And so, you know, we might have a suggestion of a bigger leaf coming out through here, which would be coming from some of our prairie sunflowers here, right out there like that. And then we'll have some of the, and I'm going to use extender. I don't want these to have a whole lot of power, so I'll use extender here. We'll just drop this around, maybe shape up this one a little bit more. There we go. Let's just drop one coming out here, like that. I'm going to shape up this one a little bit better right here and let it come right up on top of that blue cosmos there. Like that. And a little bit of a few out here. Break up some of your blues and stuff with that. Right? Different way, a little different than the last one, and let's put in some smaller little cosmos leaves here. You can put in some real super light ones as well. I don't think I'm going to, but I will use these maybe to negative paint out through here. I love this look, see? And I'll get that just dragging the colors over this drier background. That's the granulation. But I use thin with the extender. That creates the real fun kind of broken color, broken or fractured color is really the better term that I like. Here. Right in here like this, some of those other little colors. Just a real fun one. Now, you know, you can put some lighter flowers or lighten those up if you want to pull that light there, but I do like that blue, and I like your eye coming right down to here. It's a little different. And that's what we try to do always, right? A little different. Let's negative paint right in here. See if we can pull some contrast right in there. A few little marks of those cosmos type leaves here. Right out here. That's pretty good. I'm going to take some of that right out into that guy there. And I might even go a little more burnt sienna. Right out there. A little bit right in here. So I'm looking for final like color interest here and there into the painting. Get rid of that green there. And let's go burnt sienna and some Diarylide here. That beautiful semi-transparent color. Pull some of this out. There. That went out a little far, so I just overstroke it with a touch of light. There we go. Doesn't that give a beautiful effect? You come back again with some of that, and you can really deepen that effect that you have. There. Quite nice. A little open medium in that. Here. Don't breathe. There we go. Maybe a couple touches of light. Just like it's hitting those edges there. Because they get those seeds, little light seeds all the way around. Kind of, so we'll just emulate that lightly there. Maybe down through here too, that's a little light. Tap it off. A little bit down here, and I like it. Nice, soft. The blues, I could bring the Cosmos up a bit more right in there. Maybe I will. Just a couple, and you can see they're overall pretty dark. Even I could actually, first before I go add light, since the Cosmos are still a little bit darker, I could just work some dark around that center like this, lifting out, giving it that casual alla prima look, and that will pop up these guys. Now, extender, not open medium, because you're into a shadow, right? That's it. You know, that applies just most of the time. There'll be a few times when you will go grab that, and you'll see me grab the, you know, like the open medium, which is thicker, and when I paint a shadow, and that's when I really want that shadow to have more power. Otherwise, I use it thinner. I use a lot of times in my paintings, I follow the good rules of alla prima and use my shadows a lot thinner because I don't like them to have a tremendous amount of power, right? So I could, rather than lightening those up, come around with a little more dark color. And that just makes the prairie sunflowers stand out even more. Let's go a little more phthalo right in here. There we go. And maybe a touch of a light petal. Then, touch of a light petal, maybe a blue-green type of petal in here. A little different. Yeah, let's get it a little lighter. We had the blue violets over there. Maybe this one's a little showing up a little bit of blue-green. Yeah. But that might be too different. Drop back 10 and punt. We go back to the blue violet. Let's go lighter blue violet, softer in the brush. And we're working on the palette a little bit to soften it out. So I use that edge, but I touch that edge a couple of times and it softens it out. Let's just a little bit of the gray kind of center there is enough there. That's kind of pretty. Just gives a nice general look to it. I like the warmer here. Now, you see, if I am going today, with what I like to do today, completely different from where I was 6 years ago, I'm going to take a lighter gray and warmer, a little bit warmer. Some of that feeling of that background from over here, and I will toss it in over here a bit to break some of this blue up so that it doesn't, so I don't always just cut my painting in half. Does that make sense? Of warm and cools here. So this is what I would do today of where I am in my journey. I can certainly paint like I did before, but I like this right now in my paintings as well, to carry a little bit of that further up. And I might even go a touch lighter, maybe even a little cooler than what I have down there, but a touch lighter like this right in there, which puts that light right back behind. Now I'll come back and put a leaf or two, but see the difference? See what that does? Is that carries that light up, and so what was really, really heavy and dark up here, I'm just gonna cast a few marks of light up here through the composition, and I'm doing that after the fact. Does that make sense? And so, yeah, and so since my cosmos are so dark, like a little bit of light warmth coming through in that background is going to contrast the cosmos. Does that make sense? And it's also going to carry some of the color that I had in these prairie sunflowers up there. So I look at things different than I did 6 years ago. Good, bad, and different. I can still paint both. I can paint either one, but I look at things different now, and how I like things to appear. And that's part of our journey, right? That's part of our journey. And you might want to take a little bit of that other color down here. So, and because of that right there, I might want to increase that dark blue on the edge of this petal right here, so it stands out against that light. Does that make sense? Right there. Boom. There it is. So you see a little bit of light in the blue and stuff. And I start to think about those things now. Subtle different types of contrast. So maybe this one we put up a little bit more of a dark blue edge. Right there. Right there. Maybe that dark blue comes right out here, like that's the edge of a petal right there. On the one right there. And it'll give you a little bit of a difference. But see, what's that? So just a little over an hour and 10 minutes or so for this. This isn't too bad. Let's put a bit of that dark up here. Maybe even like a little more of a bud shape right there as that's growing up. It's just fun. And you can turn them more into, more specific plant shapes and stuff. I like doing this. Let's just put a little bit of a model movement back in there again through the light. So, but you can see how that little bit of light right in there opened up the composition. It's not quite as heavy back up there. Does that make sense? So if you feel like your composition, you're looking at it and you feel like, oh, maybe my composition's a little heavy back up in there, bring some light into it. Or if you think that your competition or your composition needs to anchor further down with the dark, then do that. So I can take this dark blue violet, just a mark or two of it right down in here, and anchor more of the bottom of this composition right there like that. Carry that color through. Let's soften it just a bit. Pull through. Soften that out, but you pick that up. You pick that color up. So you pick that color up traveling down just like the greens and all the other colors. See how it's traveling down? That color is traveling down. And that's the biggest thing that, I try to teach the people is moving your colors, traveling your colors. Not so much that you lose all your interest, but that you can really set up interesting areas. So you could develop the cosmos a little bit more if you wanted to develop them more, have more petals, put more petal edges like I did on the prairie sunflowers or so. But overall, I kind of like the look of it. It's a little bit different, a little bit different than what I did before there, just a little bit. The both of them are kind of neat. But and I found this time painting with the open medium is really easy. Okay, so just like I showed you on the titmouse, if you haven't watched that one, like I showed you on titmouse, like I showed you on the landscape, painting rocks, painting all this kind of stuff, doing your shadows with extender, which is thinner, which keeps the shadows, a little bit more transparent, and then using the open medium when you go for that extended painting time, using open medium, your highlights have more power against the shadow, and they stick around longer. It's just like I showed you with the painting of the clouds. We put the sky in blue with extender, then we put the clouds in with the open medium, and it just works really well. So anyway, there you go. I could have a touch lighter on a few of those right out through there maybe, but overall I kind of like it. Kind of like how this all set up. That one could use a little bit more development, maybe even in the shadows. Like I don't want to do too much because the main part of the painting is done. Maybe if I just pull out some shadow petals here, the feel of the shadow petals, that's it. Maybe that's all it needs. A little bit more of a shadow, maybe a touch of the darker blue in there. Maybe that's all I want to see in there. Yeah, just a touch more. That's it. All right, there you guys go. Have some fun with, carry color. And I just noticed this. Thank goodness the tape's still running. So, even though the Cosmos doesn't have it, what about a little touch of the yellow? Look at what that does. Just a little touch. And this is the artist and not the realist. Does that make sense? Yeah, look what that little touch yellow does in there. Just helps some of that go through, right? Yeah, so just good stuff. And you could do like I do with Alla Prima, and that is, drop some of those yellow sparks through there too. That would be kind of neat as well. So all kinds of good ways to do that. Anyway, that's enough for that. So don't forget to hit like, okay? Now, for those of you that really want to get into the rose painting and stuff, head over to the Paint It Simply channel. We have 3 videos coming up on there this week over on the Paint It Simply channel. Okay, so, and I'll put the link to the Paint It Simply channel in this video. I will be painting a tray. I'm going to show some beginning roses. I'm going to show on that channel's a lot of beginning. It's mostly going to be about beginning. But I'm also going to show some advanced techniques so you can watch the painting. Then we go back to the beginning techniques, okay? So you can see where you're going to start and where you're going to go, okay? So I'll be doing both of those. Watch to the Paint It Simply channel. Those videos are coming up. And about the same time that I'm releasing this one, maybe a day or so afterwards. But make sure you get over to Paint It Simply, our Paint It Simply channel, and you subscribe over there so you don't miss it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and let us know in the comments if you want to see something, and we'll try to get to that, okay? Till then, thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you on the next painting.